My doorbell kept recording me coming home while I was sitting on the couch. At 9:15, my phone buzzed with a motion alert and a thumbnail of my own face at my door labelled "you," like an accusation I hadn't prepared for. I tapped it, and there I was in my denim jacket and a vodka bag, shifting my weight like I always do when my ankle's stiff, glancing up into the lens as if I knew I was being watched. The timestamp said 9:22 p.m, 7 minutes ahead of my clock, like it was sure I'd arrived before I did. I hadn't left the apartment since lunch and the jacket was draped over the arm of the couch, damp at the cuff from washing dishes, where I could see it without moving. My stupid first thought was that the ring servers were off or buffering old clips, so I scrubbed the timeline, but there were no duplicates. No earlier versions, just a clean entry that hadn't technically happened yet. 7 minutes later, I heard the hallway carpet sigh under weight and the metal rattle of keys against a door I knew was mine. The sound matched the clip exactly, even the way the deadbolt clicked twice like someone didn't trust the first try. I switched to live view and the hallway looked empty. Our beige walls, our iron exit sign, my doormat with the worn out, and no one standing where the alert said I was standing. Then a knock in my own knock pattern, too quick, one slow, 3 quick rolled through the wood like I taught it to itself. I froze the earlier clip and zoomed, took a screenshot, and pinched in until the pixels broke. My face was soft around the mouth and a little chapped under the nose from the cold, and the tiny crescent scar on my left eyebrow, the one the hospital glued, was right where it should be. My lips were parted, and I was mouthing something, one syllable, just a breath you could almost read open. Another alert hit my phone while I held the knife I didn't realize I'd gone to get. Someone left your home. You, timestamp 2:03 a.m. The preview showed me in the old grey hoodie I hadn't worn in weeks, walking away from my door with my shoulders hunched, and the camera perspective dipped like it was set lower, as if I'd brushed it with my shoulder. I texted my neighbour across the hall. She works nights and keeps weird hours in tight. Can you check your people real quick and tell me if anyone's outside mine? She wrote back, it's empty. It's been empty, which made my stomach drop, because live view showed my own head still tilted toward my door. The hallway mic picked up the scrape of something thin against wood, like a fingernail or a card, and then my name and my voice filtered through tinny and light, like I'd called myself from a bathroom. I slid the chain across the top and pulled the deadbolt hard so it seated, then dragged the chair under the knob because I only ever see that in movies, and I wanted to feel like I'd done something. While the chair legs squealed, a new clip posted, featured me bending to push a white envelope under the door, the corner catching on the flimsy weather strip like it always does with pizza menus. 7 minutes later, something scuffed across my floor by the threshold and tapped my sock, and an envelope slid inside. No return address, my name on it in my own messy block letters. It said, you forgot your keys, which I hadn't, because I pressed them into my leg through my pocket until the teeth hurt. I wrote back, who are you? And slid it out into the hallway the way you do for a maintenance slip, feeling ridiculous for participating in this like a camp game. Another ahead of time clip popped up while I watched the live view, me outside, reading my note and smiling in that mouth-closed way I hate in photos, then writing something and holding it up to the camera, the letters backward but legible. 40 Pepperidge, it said, a street we grew up on, which I never write down and never say out loud because I don't like the person I was there. 7 minutes later, a new sheet came back with the same address in my handwriting, even the weird flat way I crossed my sevens, and the tear through the edge lined up like it had been torn once and then again by a future I wasn't in. The next future clip was my hand shaking as I slid my key into my own lock from the outside, and I could see my wrist scar and the band of the watch I was wearing right now. I watched myself turn the deadbolt and then stop at the chain. The angle dipped and the audio picked up the dry scrape of metal, and the chain lifted on its own and popped free like someone inside had unhooked it. The door made the hollow thump it makes when it bounces off the chair you sat under because the legs never grip, and the camera brightened to adjust for darker inside light it shouldn't have been able to see. I looped about through the chain and the hinge and tied the angriest knot I know, like I was negotiating with physics while it took its time. Another clip arrived, and in it the belt was slack and snapped on the floor before I'd even finished wrapping it in real life. I paused the feed to read comments in the ring form for 8 seconds because humans do that, and then I wasn't brave. Just stalling, and in the next future slice of video I leaned down and fogged the lens. Stop this, my own voice said from my own mouth, and behind the breath another voice down inside it said, switch, like a cold little tap on the bottom of a glass. My phone vibrated with a message from Sarah, who hasn't texted since we broke up. You okay? You just walked past me by the elevator and didn't even look, followed by rude. Security called me back to say they were short-staffed, and that the guy doing rounds had just been on 5 and didn't see anyone on the cameras except a guy in a grey hoodie with a baseball cap, which could have been anyone, which could have been me. I checked the junk drawer for the spare key I keep under the pile of outlet covers and dried pens, and it wasn't there, and that wasn't the part that scared me. What scared me was the dust rectangle where it should have been. The knocks came again in my pattern, and the chair under the knob trembled like it was listening for instructions it couldn't hear. A new clip came early 9:30, it for 9:45, and it wasn't my door anymore. It was a perspective lower, tilted up at the apartment number plaque, like someone had set the camera in the dormer to stare up at the nameplate. I didn't move, and I can't explain this, but the video's exposure pumped to compensate for shadows it should not have known, and you can see, if you pause at the right frame, the bottom edge of my door swing inward and the dim outline of my living room beyond the threshold. My TV was on in the clip, bright with an ad I hadn't seen yet, a guy selling tires yelling with his hands, while real-life me stared at a frozen frame of myself threatening to walk in. The last clip queued while the others were still uploading, a jittery preview that said someone is at your door. Time stamped for 7 minutes from this exact moment. In the tiny thumbnail, I'm standing on the hallway side with my phone in my right hand and my left hand lifted like I'm about to knock, and I'm wearing exactly what I'm wearing now. It hasn't started yet, but I can already hear the sound it will make from the other side of the room.